So this is my first Thanksgiving in England, and you can bet I've been very surprised to see Black Friday signs everywhere. I thought Black Friday was uniquely American as it's the Friday after Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday. So why do I see Black Friday signs here? It's like going into a wedding where you know no one and someone grabs you right away and thinks you're a bridesmaid? Thanksgiving in America is a day where we celebrate our colonial history and share stories of the idea that we hung out with the Native Americans and shared a harvest feast. And then the next day we wake up at 4 a.m., wait in lines outside to get a discount TV and hope that we don't get trampled and make it on the news. So seeing Black Friday enthusiastically advertised here, you can imagine my surprise. It's like celebrating Easter without a rabbit or celebrating New Year's in July. So I had to discover how that happened here. And like all great things British, my first stop was a pub. Along the River Thames in Rotherhithe sits a little pub called the Mayflower. It looks exactly how Americans picture British pubs: uneven floors, low ceilings, and lots of pints. And unlike many pubs that claim to be historic, this one actually is. It also claims to have the longest running active liquor license of any pub on the Thames. It stands on the spot where the Mayflower ship left in 1620. This is where the Pilgrims had one last pint before starting their Puritan nightmare. Now, they did pick up more passengers in Southampton and eventually Plymouth before crossing the Atlantic and then naming a place Plymouth as well. And if you've ever seen the American Plymouth Rock, it's real emphasis on the rock. It's the size of a rock. It's just a tiny little plaque in the ground made out of stone. But this pub is where the captain had his last beer. Hopefully he didn't dine and ditch. Now, the Mayflower was not a glamorous ship by any means. It was actually a vessel meant for shipping wine. They just kind of fitted it to put some people on it. So basically it was a glamorized wine cellar, like the original booze cruise, but without the booze. The entire journey took 66 days, and by the time the settlers made it to the Americas, only about 100 people survived the journey, which is kind of funny when you think that about 35 million Americans claim to be descendants of the original Mayflower passengers. I had no idea the Puritans were so randy. In those 66 days, they hit countless storms, lots of issues, illnesses, but eventually they made it. The passengers' quarters were only about 5 feet tall, so luckily everyone mostly suffered from malnutrition and they were not too tall for that. When they finally reached what is modern-day Massachusetts, like I mentioned earlier, only about 100 survived, and half of the others died in the first winter. The survivors that did live that first winter had the Wampanoag people to thank. The Native Americans that already lived there in the place that they just discovered, which was not empty. But they showed the Pilgrims how to cultivate food and do farming and storage and everything else that was in the wilderness there. If not for the Wampanoag people, I think it's easy to say that none of the settlers would have survived past that next winter. This crucial fact is often left out when talking and taught in American schools. We usually just trace our hand and draw turkey pictures, but we don't give thanks where thanks was due, which is ironic because it's Thanksgiving. The first Thanksgiving happened in 1621 and actually lasted for 3 days. It involved feasting, diplomacy, and probably some very awkward dinner conversations. The historical menu probably included maize, venison, and various vegetables. Definitely not sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie yet, because without sugar, a pumpkin pie is just a vegetable in a crust. Now, George Washington did declare that Thanksgiving was going to be a holiday, but it wasn't officially added as a holiday until Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. He thought it would be a great opportunity to try to bring the nation back together, and that is when it became an official holiday in America. In 1863. Over time, the holiday transformed to what its main dishes were. The first Thanksgiving was believed to probably be goose or something similar to what you would have traditionally on Christmas here before you guys adopted turkey, which is funny because in the States, turkey is the Thanksgiving feast. Now, I'm not sure how they captured those first turkeys because if you have ever seen a wild turkey, you would know those things are terrifying and they will come after you. The modern menu includes things like turkey, mashed potatoes, sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie, mashed potatoes again, and gravy. But our gravy's a little different than the gravy here, but still a brown gravy. But one thing every Thanksgiving has continued to have is infighting with your family and awkward conversations. And eventually, the day after Thanksgiving became a holiday for shopping. The earliest known use of the phrase Black Friday originates to the 1950s in Philadelphia, when the traffic after Thanksgiving became so intense, the police would dub it Black Friday. And if you know anything about Thanksgiving in the States, it is the busiest travel day of the year. Busier than Christmas because unlike any other holiday in the States, for the most part, Thanksgiving has no religious basis, so everyone can celebrate by eating 3,000 calories and watching football, the American football, and yeah, it's a big Thanksgiving thing. Retailers decided to take the day and try to convince people that they were getting a bargain because it was the end of the year and this stock had to be gotten rid of or they were going to face losses as a business. But truth is, they plan all year for Black Friday. And if you notice now, a lot of times online, if you buy your Black Friday things online, watch the prices in the following weeks leading up to Black Friday. They will often increase the price a few weeks prior so that you think you're getting a discount on Black Friday when they drop it back to the price it was a month prior. In the 1980s, retailers fully embraced the concept of Black Friday and began to push it as a commercial holiday because nothing says celebrating days with your family like spending even more money before Christmas rolls around. But how did Black Friday make it to Britain? That makes no sense. Well, actually, the origins are in 1999, all thanks to Walmart. When Walmart purchased the supermarket chain Asda, it's one of those things that in my head I want to say carne asada because that's what I think it sounds like and I know it's not, but we're just going to excuse my American on this one. But in 1999, Walmart purchased the chain and decided to import the glorious Black Friday. Now, it didn't fully catch on in England until around 2013 when they began to aggressively go after this and market it to get you sucked into the same capitalistic holiday. So not only Americans would have to read the headline, people trampled buying a TV. Fight breaks out over 5-pound toasters, meaning Britain adopted the chaos without the day of eating everything before. Although I will say a Sunday roast tastes very similar to what Thanksgiving dinner tastes like in the States. So you guys get the joy of sharing a meal with your family every day. Well, every Sunday. This creates a really fascinating historical loop. People go to a pub in England, cross the river, make a myth, send back the idea, and convince everyone to buy things. Kind of like a boomerang effect for retail. Now, while researching all of this, I did find a really interesting fact that I did not know before. That Pocahontas was actually buried in Kent. Today, there is still a statue of Pocahontas in this spot, but the original church where she was buried burnt down several hundred years ago, and so the actual records and location of where her grave is have been lost to time. They think it's somewhere under where the original chapel was, but unfortunately, nobody knows for sure. She died in Gravesend in 1617. She came back after marrying a captain, John Smith, and wasn't here for very long before she got sick. But the whole point was to bring her and show her to the court to show that colonization was going well. Unfortunately, this part of the story is rarely discussed in the Americas, as it doesn't really have a happy ending, and we like to Disneyfy all of our myths. Meanwhile, the Mayflower Pub continues to serve pints to this day. And if you can prove that you're a descendant of one of the Mayflower passengers, you're allowed to sign a register. Unfortunately, I couldn't prove that, and I wasn't able to sign the register. Actually, I didn't even ask because I knew I couldn't prove it, but no one wants my penmanship in there. And considering that there's 35 million Americans that could sign that, it's best to leave some space in that book for other people. So when I see Black Friday signs around Britain now, I don't think, that doesn't make any sense. Now I know where it came from and why we share that history together. Isn't history just neat? Did you know that Pocahontas was buried here? I was truly astounded to learn that she was buried here. Did you know the origins of Black Friday? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and do the little hype thing. I'll see you in the next one.